So I want to talk about an idea for a new system I have for develop transporting cargo by air. And I say new cargo plane right here, but I mean plane, helicopter, cyclocopter, blimp, who knows what. Well, instead of having it, you fill up one giant thing like a plane with cargo, you have it attached to cables and being kind of dragged or lifted along. And I want to talk about some advantages of the system. And I'm going one of the first parts of the system I'm going to talk about is just having heavy lifters or big planes carrying this behind and dragging it. One thing is, this means you can optimize the plane a lot more to create less turbulence. And less turbulence could be useful in a variety of ways. One is that we actually do not have the best wind tunnels always to test stuff out. And they don't always make the perfect for atmospheric conditions, and they can be very expensive. And computer simulations are not perfect yet. So this could be a way of dragging along stuff, and we had to test out different parameters of how well its aerodynamics is. And nowadays, sometimes we actually already attach stuff to planes, but we test them more directly, and dragging along will give us better, more accurate data. Another kind of advantage of this whole thing is that you could design it so that it takes up the right amount of volume with drag. So if you have a giant plane and you don't fill it up a lot, that's a huge problem because you have a bigger volume creating more drag. Now, if you have to separate the module that actually carries a cargo, then the actual thing with the engines and everything, you can optimize that so it has the least amount of drag for that. And actually that thing could be a lifting body itself. I'm not talking about containers that are rectangular and stuff, but the containers themselves could have big gliders or something, or lifting bodies that can be constructed more for purpose and add on, and a lot cheaper than the full structure with control surfaces and stuff, but they do generate some of their own lift. You also can have more surface. Also, there's ways of reducing drag with many smaller wings placed far apart compared to one bigger wing, and you can see this in geese and stuff. And what geese do is the geese flying in front breaks up the air in such a way that the geese behind it get more lift, but also less drag. And that's also why fire formations. But with this design, with a bunch of cables and stuff, you can take advantage of that on a smaller scale and get less drag and more lift. You also can modify smaller surfaces more easily to counteract turbulence, or they can negate turbulence altogether. And then also having cable that can change the amount of slack could reduce turbulence or vibrations. The plane that's actually pulling the stuff, which I'm going to call the heavy lifter, could be more optimized to pull stuff with better fuel joints. It can handle more weather better. You don't have to worry about the shape as much. You could have it more for specific types of weather, and so on, because you're not thinking about the cargo section. And the cargo section can be just made cheaper, which could lead to fuel savings and more easy upgrades. It also could mean that you could switch out ones more easily, because your cargo container you can design totally separate than the rest of your system, and switch and match different types of cargo containers and stuff. Another point, very similar to the other points, is that you can make it more modular because you're not as making every structure is more separate. So we talked previously about the cargo container, switching in and out of stuff, not worrying about how it impacts planes much, but the actual plane could be made more modular because you don't have to worry about a cargo section. In that cargo section, because you don't have to worry about it, you can make it so it's more accessible with tunnels and stuff to go in and out. You could maybe make wings that are more strap-on, not strap-on. And you don't have to worry about weight distribution and stuff like that. So that gives a whole new space of modularity. Or you can make it more modular in that you can have the thing is pulling along the whole thing, and make it more modular that way, in that you can have 5 different types of airplanes pulling it, or 4, and maybe they control different aspects of the flight. Maybe one of them gets rid of turbulence and vibrations more. Maybe one of them is more for safety. Maybe one of them is there's no power. But you could also make a model that you could, instead of using a cargo plane sometimes, you could have a passenger's plane pulling it, and you could have a cargo plane pulling it for additional lift. That way you don't, like a tug, that way some of the extra energy used to take passengers is instead used to take cargo, but not always take cargo. So you don't have to optimize a passenger plane to take cargo, but you can take cargo, saving some money there, and then you can add stuff on as you need. Another advantage of the system is that it's a faster drop-off on load, potentially, and you can drop it off at more locations. So an example of this would be, let's say you want to drop off a big container, but you cannot on the water. Well, now you can just drop off at any water. You don't have to have the plane fly down and land on the water and be equipped to land on water. Also, plane landing in water, when it hits the water, there's vibrations and water gets sprayed, which can damage the plane. So it has to slow down more, so now you can come in faster. The thing might also have less of an impact if it just hits the water in a more controlled way than the whole plane, which has to worry about turbulence and engine stuff. But also you could drop it off more on different places on land, potentially with less of a runway, or don't have to worry about the runway as much. You could and the plane would not also, and the reason why you can't just drop off, planes have a lot of turbulence, they have a lot of propulsion systems on them that can just blow away stuff. A jet plane can blow away with one of its engines the whole freaking bus. So now you don't have to worry about that massive destruction and just drop it off anywhere, which could mean more places, better shipping, because you can drop it off more places, so you don't have to drop it off at a big airport, pull up at the airport, and cause maybe delays because it has to travel in just 100 miles, because a couple 100 miles because of the airport location. Instead, it can drop off near a location where it has to travel less, and it's less in between stuff. Another one is that this could do for emergency packing better. Just pick up stuff and drop it off for emergencies in more loads of conditions, which is a rare case, but I kind of really stuck with the other one. You can also load stuff more quickly, which is a lot more difficult task because then you have to aim stuff with the cables and everything fly under it. But in a way, you could load stuff more quickly, so you don't have a cargo bay you have to load. You preload a thing, and when the plane lands, you just hook it up, and the plane flies off, or something like that. So that might be an easy way, or you could maybe make ways of doing it where the cable latches onto something that then directs it into this device, or the cable has at the end a little drone or something that aims it more precisely. You will have to figure out the system more. Another one is you could you could also make it so that the types of cables and stuff changes the amount of slack or gives power to the system or something like that. And that could, or you could change up the types of cables for different weather conditions and stuff to give you even more flexibility in it, or change the amount of slack in it to reduce vibrations and of both the aircraft and the cargo. You could have more customizable wings and stuff they attach to everything to make it for more customizable lift or drag or faster or slower. If you make this, including making different cargo size containers or cargo containers that maybe you can 3D print or construct on site for the whole thing. Or you can make it so that you can change it in flight with change up what planes are carrying the cargo in a more advanced system. And this is really advanced. If one plane is going half the trip and another plane half the trip for passengers, they switch off cargo. Another thing that could be done with the whole system is maybe if there's an emergency and the passengers or pilots are in trouble, they can drop off the cargo first to lighten the load of the plane or something. Or if they're carrying goods or flammable or explosives or something like that, if they explode but they're far away from the plane, then it's safer for the people on the plane. Now, besides these heavy lifters, what you could do if you worry about stuff really swinging back and forth is you could have small drones or planes or something near the axle thing that give more precise control and pull it to make sure it's steady and doesn't swing back and forth too much. Or you could attach engines and stuff to the actual cargo thing, but those engines are just there to more or less direct it better and not to make it do all this crazy stuff. Well, thank you very much for listening. Please like and subscribe. It will help the channel out. I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers in a year, 4,000 watch hours, which is really hard, but you really help, I think, in doing it. Again, thank you much. Goodbye.